What if one forgotten rule could turn your thoughts into empires? Imagine unlocking a force so powerful it transforms mere desire into unshakable reality. In this rare lesson, you'll discover the secret behind legendary success, how purpose ignites clarity, thoughts shape your world, and faith becomes your foundation. Learn why persistence outlasts talent, why mastering yourself is the key to mastering life, and how bold decisions change everything. See how the right alliances amplify your vision, and why action, not ideas, builds legacies. This isn't theory, it's the blueprint the greats lived by. The question is, are you ready to build your empire? The starting point of all success, of every towering empire, every enduring fortune, is a definiteness of purpose. Without it, a man is like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly through the tides of chance and circumstance. You see, no great builder of wealth or influence ever rose to power by accident. It was not luck, nor was it merely talent. It was the burning clarity of a single aim, pursued with unrelenting focus. When a man knows exactly what he wants, when his goal is not a wish but a consuming obsession, the universe begins to move in alignment with that purpose. A vague desire produces vague results. That is why most men remain ordinary. They want wealth, but they do not define it. They hope for success, but they cannot describe it. They whisper dreams in the dark, but they never write them in stone. Yet the man who succeeds, the one who builds something mighty, carves his purpose deep into his mind and soul. He sees it in the morning before his feet touch the ground, and he carries it into every hour of the day. It becomes the lens through which he makes decisions, the fuel that powers his discipline, the compass that directs his efforts. This is the one rule that has built empires. Know thy purpose, and allow nothing to distract from it. A single idea held with conviction will draw to itself all the resources, opportunities, and people required for its fulfillment. And when that idea is pursued with definiteness, when it becomes more important than comfort, more real than fear, more valuable than approval, then success is not just possible, it is inevitable. Do not misunderstand me. A definiteness of purpose is not merely a written goal. It is a state of being. It is the fire behind the eyes of the man who refuses to settle. It is the reason he says no when others are wasting time. It is why he wakes earlier, studies longer, and pushes harder than those around him. He is not confused. He is not easily swayed. His mind is made up, and the world begins to make room for him. I have seen men with less talent outpace those with natural gifts simply because their aim was definite. They knew where they were going, and they moved with urgency. And I have watched men with brilliant minds waste decades in distraction because they never chose a singular direction. The difference between the two was not intelligence, it was purpose. That one rule made all the difference. So I ask you, what is it that you truly want? Not what others expect of you, not what sounds good in the moment, but what burns in your heart so strongly that to ignore it would be to betray yourself. When you can answer that without hesitation, you've taken the first step toward building your own empire. Everything begins with a thought. The tallest buildings, the most powerful nations, the greatest inventions, all of them were once invisible, held only in the mind of a person bold enough to believe in the unseen. Thoughts are not idle flashes of imagination. They are the blueprint of power. They are the starting point of creation itself. When a man grasps this truth, truly grasps it, he realizes that he holds, within his own mind, the tools to shape his destiny. What you think about consistently and with emotion, you begin to move toward. The mind is a magnet, drawing toward it whatever it is habitually occupied with. If you dwell on failure, on fear, on limitation, then do not be surprised when your life reflects exactly that. But when your thoughts are dominated by success, abundance, confidence, and purpose, when you think in terms of strength and vision, then your world will begin to align with those ideas. This is not fantasy. It is law. The builders of empires did not merely work harder than others. They thought differently. They saw possibilities where others saw obstacles. They imagined outcomes so vivid, so real, that the world around them began to take shape according to that vision. They were not bound by the present because their minds had already visited the future. That is the difference. That is the edge. You must guard your thoughts like a king guards a treasury. Do not allow doubt, fear, and defeat to enter and make themselves at home. They are thieves of greatness. Instead, feed your mind with images of triumph. Surround yourself with belief. Speak only of what you desire, not what you dread. Think clearly, think boldly, think as if your thoughts were carving stone, because they are. A man becomes what he thinks about most. If his thoughts are scattered, his life will be scattered. If his mind is full of conflict, his circumstances will reflect that turmoil. But if his thoughts are firm, clear, and charged with belief, then even the greatest odds cannot stand against him for long. It is not the world that must change. It is the mind through which the world is seen. And here's the beauty of it all. You have complete control over what you think. No one can force a thought into your mind unless you allow it. You are the gatekeeper. You choose the picture. You set the tone. You define the outcome. Every empire built began with that choice. The choice to think deliberately, powerfully, and with purpose. So begin there. Begin in the stillness of your own mind. Begin with an idea that excites your soul, that shakes you awake. Hold it, feed it, believe in it, and act upon it as though it were already real, because soon enough it will be. Faith is the unseen force that breathes life into desire. Without it, desire fades into wishful thinking and ends in frustration. But with faith, real, deliberate, unshakable faith, a man can turn the invisible into the visible, the impossible into the inevitable. Faith is not simply hoping things will work out. It is the inner knowing that they must, because your belief will not permit any other result. It is the cornerstone of all achievement. Every man who has risen above his conditions has done so by first raising his belief in what is possible. The moment you accept a desire as already yours in the unseen world, the visible world begins to bend in your favor. Doors begin to open. People begin to appear. Resources flow where once there was only lack. That is the power of faith. It transforms a man from being a victim of his circumstances to being the master of them. But it must be cultivated, for faith does not grow in a mind filled with doubt. It grows where thought is disciplined and vision is nourished. It grows when you feed your imagination with the outcome you want, not the one you fear. And let me say this. Faith is not passive. It is not sitting still and waiting for things to change. Faith moves the feet. Faith drives the hand. Faith whispers in the dark, keep going, even when the results haven't yet arrived. It is the bridge between belief and action. Those who build empires do not wait until they feel ready. They act on their faith, and in doing so, they grow it. Each step forward builds momentum, until eventually that belief becomes a force too strong to be stopped. Doubt, on the other hand, is a slow poison. It creeps in quietly. It tells you to be cautious, to wait, to lower your expectations. It speaks in a voice that sounds like reason, but it's the voice of fear disguised as wisdom. Let it linger, and it will drain the life out of your purpose. That is why you must shut the door on it entirely. Replace it with affirmation. Replace it with vision. Replace it with a kind of conviction that leaves no room for retreat. The man of faith is calm in the storm because he does not look to the waves. He looks to the outcome he has already accepted. He may stumble, but he will not stop. He may fall, but he will not stay down, because he knows that the world must eventually conform to what he holds true within. He knows that faith backed by action is the most powerful force he can wield. So when you decide what you want, believe in it completely. See it in your mind until it becomes more real than your current surroundings. Speak of it as though it's already done. Act in line with it, even when no one else understands. And keep moving, because faith, once ignited, will carry you further than logic ever could. There is one trait that separates those who merely wish from those who build lasting success: persistence. It is the invisible force that pushes a man forward when everything in him says to stop. It is the quiet resolve that whispers, just one more step, when the path seems too long, too steep, too filled with resistance. Every empire you've ever seen rise from the ground was built not just by vision or intelligence, but by an unwavering refusal to quit. Talent may open the door, and desire may spark the flame, but only persistence keeps the fire alive long enough to burn down the obstacles that stand in the way. Most people give up far too soon. The moment they face rejection, they retreat. The first time they fail, they reconsider their entire dream, but defeat is not the end unless you accept it as such. Temporary failure is a test, a challenge designed to separate the committed from the curious, and persistence is the answer to that test. It says, I will try again, I will learn, I will adapt, but I will not quit. That spirit is what makes success not only possible, but inevitable. Persistence is more than repeated effort. It is a decision, a daily conscious choice to continue, no matter how hard it gets. It doesn't demand that you be the smartest, the strongest, or the fastest. It only requires that you keep showing up, day after day, hour after hour, even when it seems like nothing is working, even when the results are invisible. Because deep down, you know something powerful is happening. You are building endurance, sharpening your focus, and proving to life itself that you are worthy of the result you desire. When you persist, something incredible happens. Resistance begins to wear down. The challenges that once seemed towering begin to shrink. The people who doubted you begin to pay attention. The resources that once felt out of reach start to appear. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you refused to be moved by the temporary. You held your ground, and in doing so, you gained ground. I've watched men fail a dozen times only to rise on the 13th attempt. And that 13th try built the life they had dreamed of. I've seen others, more skilled and better prepared, collapse at the first sign of difficulty. What made the difference? It wasn't knowledge. It wasn't connections. It was persistence, the will to go on, to face defeat without losing purpose, and to trust that every setback carried a seed of advancement within it. So when the road becomes hard, and it will, remember this: you do not need to be extraordinary to win. You simply need to be committed beyond reason. When you learn to persist, not just occasionally, but as a way of life, there is no failure that can hold you, no delay that can break you, and no dream that can deny you. Keep going. That is the rule. Before any man can command the world around him, he must first learn to command himself. That is the beginning of all true power. You cannot control outcomes, people, or circumstances, not with any lasting success, until you have mastery over your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own impulses. Every empire that ever rose and endured was built by men who had first conquered the battlefield within. For the man who lacks self-discipline is like a king with no control over his kingdom, ruled by urges, swayed by moods, a prisoner of circumstance. Control over self does not mean suppression. It means direction. It means your mind is not tossed around by every fleeting feeling. It means your tongue speaks with purpose, not reaction. It means your hands are moved by decision, not by habit. When your thoughts obey your will, when your emotions serve your higher aim, when your actions align with your vision, then, and only then, do you begin to possess the kind of inner strength that builds legacies. Most people never reach this point. They are ruled by distractions. They chase comfort instead of growth. They make promises to themselves they do not keep. They know what they should do, but their habits overpower their intentions. And so they remain stuck, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack control over the one thing that truly matters, themselves. The man who masters himself becomes unstoppable, because nothing outside of him has the power to defeat him. Criticism cannot derail him. Delay cannot discourage him. Even failure cannot break him. Why? Because his mind is trained. His will is firm. He does not act based on how he feels in the moment, but based on what he has decided in advance. That kind of control is rare, and that is why those who possess it stand above the rest. It starts with the small things: waking when you say you will, finishing what you start, choosing discipline over impulse. These choices may seem insignificant, but they are the seeds of greatness. Every act of self-control strengthens your inner command. Every time you override an excuse, you claim back your power. And when enough of these moments accumulate, you begin to walk through the world with a calm certainty, a quiet authority that others feel without you ever saying a word. There is a peace that comes with mastery over self, a peace that does not depend on conditions. You become the same in victory and in trial, because your power does not come from outside, it flows from within, and with that power you can build anything. You can shape your environment, direct your circumstances, and lead others with clarity and conviction. So before you seek to lead others, before you aim to build an empire, look inward, train your mind, discipline your habits, govern your emotions, because when you learn to rule yourself, the world begins to respond in kind. Success begins the moment a man learns how to decide, and to decide quickly, clearly, and with finality. That is the mark of every strong leader, every builder of fortune, every master of his own fate. The power of decision is what separates those who lead from those who follow, those who achieve from those who wish. Indecision is the silent killer of dreams. It delays action, weakens resolve, and invites confusion. A man who hesitates to choose will forever be at the mercy of those who don't. You see, opportunities do not linger. They come wrapped in uncertainty, often disguised as risk, and they demand swift recognition. The man who waits for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, he never moves. Life rewards those who are bold enough to make a choice and take a step, even if they don't yet see the entire path. A firm decision ignites momentum, and momentum begins to create clarity. One choice leads to the next, and soon, what was once unknown becomes familiar, and what was once feared becomes mastered. There's a reason so many fail to achieve what they truly desire. It's not because they lack talent or resources. It's because they cannot make up their minds. They dabble in one thing, then another. They change their goals to match their mood. They seek advice from every direction, but never commit to one course. That kind of life is scattered and powerless. But the man who decides, who plants his flag and says, "This is where I'm going," he gathers strength with each step forward. The world moves for the man who knows where he's going. Making a decision is not always about being right. It's about being committed. If you find that your decision was imperfect, you adjust, but the decision must come first. The act of deciding transforms you. It solidifies your purpose. It awakens a force in your mind that brings all your thoughts, actions, and energy into alignment. And when a man is aligned, he is powerful. There is no wasted motion, no mental fog, no hesitation. There is only movement, strong, purposeful, and deliberate. Some will call you reckless for deciding quickly. Let them. The truth is, most people call reckless what they are too afraid to do themselves. But history has never been shaped by the hesitant. It has always been molded by those who had the courage to choose, and to stand by that choice until either success or growth proved them right. So if you want to change your life, stop waiting. Stop wondering. Stop asking for permission. Decide. Decide what you want. Decide who you must become. Decide what must be done. And then do it. Because the moment you decide, the universe begins to shift. And that single moment may be all that ever stood between you and the life you were meant to live. No man ever built an empire alone. Behind every towering success, behind every breakthrough, behind every world changing idea, there was a team of minds moving in harmony toward a common goal. The man who understands this truth gains a strength that cannot be achieved by individual effort alone. There is a power in unity, a force that multiplies thought, magnifies belief, and accelerates results. When two or more minds come together, bound by trust, vision, and purpose, a third invisible force is born, a mind that is greater than the sum of its parts. This is where real expansion begins. You may have a powerful idea, a clear purpose, unshakable faith, and relentless persistence. But when you surround yourself with others who believe as deeply as you do, who challenge you, sharpen you, and support you, your reach extends beyond your own limitations. One man can only go so far on his own energy. But when that energy is fused with the energy of others, working in harmony, the possibilities become limitless. The key is alignment, not just working with others, but working with the right others. You must choose carefully. Not all company is beneficial. Many voices will distract. Many hands will pull you in opposite directions. But those who share your vision, who bring complementary strengths, who breathe belief into your ideas, those are the minds that will elevate your purpose and move it further than you ever could alone. They see what you don't see. They lift when you tire. They add momentum when yours begins to wane. And do not mistake unity for agreement in all things. The strongest alliances are not built on sameness, but on shared purpose. Disagreement sharpens ideas. Different perspectives open new doors, but what matters is harmony. The kind that comes when every individual is working toward the same destination, driven by the same belief, willing to do whatever is required for the common aim. Most men fear collaboration because they believe it means surrendering control. But the wise man knows that true power is not in control, it is in synergy. He understands that wielding something greater into the himself, letting others into the process. And when that's done with the right people, in the right spirit, there is no force on earth that can rival it. The man who walks alone may move fast for a while, but the man who walks with the right minds moves farther. He endures, he expands, he multiplies. Empires are not built with isolated genius. They are built by minds united in pursuit of a single dominant purpose. So if you wish to rise beyond your current station, seek out those whose minds align with your mission. Share your vision. Invite their insight. Cultivate trust. Build together. Because in that union of focused thought lies a power that no obstacle can withstand, and no dream can outgrow. Ideas are powerful. Belief is essential. Purpose, faith, persistence, and vision. Each plays a vital role in the making of greatness. But none of it means anything without action. Action is the bridge that carries your thoughts into reality. It is the engine that transforms invisible desires into tangible results. No man ever built anything by thinking alone. The world does not respond to intention. It responds to movement. Action is the language life understands. You can have the clearest vision, the strongest belief, and the most carefully written plan. But if you do not act, you will remain exactly where you are. Too many people spend their lives preparing, studying, analyzing, waiting for a perfect moment that never comes. They say they are being wise, cautious, thoughtful, but what they're really doing is avoiding the discomfort of beginning. The truth is, the perfect moment is created, not discovered, and it is created through action. Action breaks inertia. It stirs up energy. It attracts people, opportunities, and momentum that simply don't show up for the idle thinker. Even imperfect action has value. You learn, you adjust, you grow, you discover what works and what doesn't. But none of that is possible if you're trapped in hesitation. The greatest lessons, the most important breakthroughs, and the real movement toward your goals all begin the moment you take a step. no matter how small it may seem. And let me remind you, action does not always look dramatic. It isn't always a grand gesture. Sometimes it's making a phone call you've been putting off. Sometimes it's writing the first sentence, saving the first dollar, waking up an hour earlier, or saying no to something that steals your time. These may seem like minor decisions, but stacked day after day, they create the path to your destiny. What matters is that you move with purpose. When your action is guided by a clear desire, fueled by belief, and backed by discipline, it becomes a force that nothing can resist. You begin to walk differently. You speak with more conviction. You start to live in alignment with the very thing you once only dreamed about. Action gives weight to your words and credibility to your vision. People trust those who act. Life opens up to those who make moves. And don't concern yourself with how far you have to go. Focus only on the next step. Momentum builds with motion, not thought. Each step you take reveals the next. Each decision you act on strengthens your resolve. And over time, what once seemed distant becomes inevitable. So when you have the vision and the belief and the plan, act. Do not wait. Do not ask permission. Do not delay. Begin where you are with what you have and move forward. Because until you take action, your dream is only a shadow. But the moment you move, it begins to take form. And that is when your life truly begins to change.